Today, we're diving into something that might seem a little technical, but trust me, it's super important if you like PCs and are planning on upgrading your rig soon. AMD have changed the way they name their GPUs, and it's something we need to talk about. So let's explore why AMD changed the name of their GPUs and what it means to you. First, let's take a quick look at the old naming system. AMD GPUs used to follow a pretty straightforward pattern, RX 500 series and the RX 400 series. This was all part of their Radeon lineup, and it worked for a while, but it was clear things were starting to get more complicated. You had the RX 5700 series, and then you had the RX 6000 series, and there was no real clarity on where these cards fit in terms of performance, or how they compared to previous generations. It was fine for a while, but with the rapid pace of technology, it started to get confusing. Fast forward to the RX 7000 series, and AMD took a bold step in making a major change to their naming system. The new convention is a bit more systematic, and it's easier for consumers to understand what they're getting. With the release of RDNA2 architecture and the RX 6800 and the RX 6900 XT, AMD adopted a more intuitive system that not only indicates the series but also provides a clearer performance tier. So, how does it work? The first digit indicates the generation of the GPU, so 7000 is the latest. The second digit defines the performance level, so a 6800 is a higher tier card than a 6700 or a 6600, and that tells us how powerful it is. And then you have the last two digits, which differentiate between the lower and higher end variants in the same series. So why does this matter for consumers like you and me? Well, with this new naming scheme, AMD made it easier to understand exactly what we're buying. The old system was, well, a bit of a guessing game. You had to do some research to figure out whether you were looking at mid-range or high-end cards, but now the performance tiers are clear right off the bat. You can easily tell that the 6900 XT is a top tier card, while the RX 6600 is more entry level. Plus, with this system, there's less chance of confusing one generation with another. Additionally, it's great for comparisons. If you're upgrading your GPU or just looking at the latest tech, the new naming system allows you to better compare cards within the same generation. For example, comparing the RX 6800 and the RX 6900 XT is a lot easier now, and you'll instantly know that the 6900 XT is the faster, more powerful card. Now, this change has a strategic benefit for AMD itself. By implementing a clearer naming structure, AMD is setting itself up to compete more effectively against Nvidia. We know that Nvidia has a pretty straightforward naming system for its RTX 3000 and RTX 4000 series, and AMD needed something just as intuitive to keep up. The new naming scheme not only brings clarity but also allows AMD to position their GPUs much more clearly in the market. By making these changes, AMD is also trying to keep their competitive edge, especially when they go up against Nvidia's top-end cards. They've always been put in a solid position for gamers, but this new naming system brings an extra level of professionalism and polish to the company's product lineup. So why don't just call it the 8000 series? Well, AMD wanted a bigger gap to separate the RDNA 3 from the RDNA 4. Marketing wise, a 9000 series card sounds way more better than a next gen than the 8000 series would have been. So what to expect from the 9070 and cards that go beyond it? Well, it's got way more efficient power use, unlike the new 5090, which draws 600 watts of power. Possibly might not even have a high-end AI core, unlike Nvidia's RTX 5000 series, and supposedly have better raterization performance. So, AMD is playing the long game with their new GPU naming scheme. It might be confusing now, but over time it can simply help their lineup. But what do you think? Do you like the new naming system, or do you prefer how it was before? And what do you think is going to happen when Nvidia gets to the 9070?